on me.
So you pulled out your gun, a Glock 40, and you fired because some guy had a gun.
I ain't mean shit nobody. I ain't mean shit nobody. They were walking up.
I'm just trying to visualize it.
The following story is based on real-life criminal cases. Some names, details, and events have been altered for privacy and dramatic purposes. While every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, certain information may not be factually verified. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Some of these cases remain unsolved to this day.
The Zombicon tragedy: how a night of fun turned to horror. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to Murder Mistress. Please, before we continue, do not forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more in-depth true crime coverage that exposes the real stories behind America's most shocking and heartbreaking cases. Every like, comment, and subscription helps keep this channel growing, allowing us to continue shining a light on stories that deserve to be remembered. Stories of lives lost, communities shattered, and the search for justice that follows. It was supposed to be a night of laughter, costumes, and harmless scares. Thousands of people had gathered in downtown Fort Myers, Florida, for one of the city's most anticipated events, Zombicon, a Halloween-themed street festival that brought together families, friends, and horror enthusiasts. Music echoed through the streets, the air filled with laughter, flashing lights, and painted faces. People came dressed as zombies, vampires, ghouls, and ghosts. But just after midnight, the festive atmosphere would collapse into chaos. What began as a celebration of fantasy quickly transformed into a nightmare of reality. Amid the crowd, the sound of gunfire suddenly broke through the music, sharp, distinct, and horrifyingly real. In a matter of seconds, the joyous noise of the crowd turned into screams. Panic spread as hundreds of people scattered in every direction, running for cover behind vendor booths and parked cars. Cell phones dropped, drinks spilled, and the once vibrant streets became scenes of fear and confusion. When the gunfire ended, 7 people were injured, and one young man, 20-year-old Expavious Taylor, laid dead on the pavement. Expavious was a college student, a former high school football star with dreams of becoming a professional athlete. Friends and family described him as charismatic, kind-hearted, and full of potential. That night, he had simply been out enjoying the festival with friends, unaware that it would be his last. Police officers who had been patrolling the event rushed toward the sound of the shots. Body cam footage and eyewitness videos captured the moments that followed. Chaos, people crying, others lying wounded, and officers shouting for medics. It was an unimaginable scene for what was meant to be a community celebration. Despite hundreds of witnesses, the shooter had vanished into the crowd. Costumes, masks, and makeup made identification nearly impossible. The streets were filled with confusion, and in the chaos, whoever had fired those deadly shots had slipped away. In the days that followed, investigators faced immense pressure. How could such a violent act occur in such a public place, surrounded by police, cameras, and thousands of people? How could someone kill an innocent young man and disappear without a trace? The search for answers would stretch on for years. Police reviewed countless hours of surveillance footage, interviewed more than 100 witnesses, and collected every piece of physical evidence they could find from the crime scene. Bullet casings were recovered, but no firearm was found. Detectives were confident that someone had to know something, but leads were scarce. For a long time, it seemed like the Zombicon shooting would go unsolved. The community mourned, holding candlelight vigils in honor of Expavious. His family pleaded for justice, demanding answers from law enforcement and the city. For years, Zombicon remained a painful memory, a symbol of unanswered questions and lives cut short. Then, in 2019, a major break came in the case. Through the use of new ballistic and forensic testing methods, investigators linked shell casings from the Zombicon scene to another, unrelated shooting. That link pointed to one man, Raul Bonilla. Bonilla, who was already in custody for a separate weapons-related offense, became the focus of renewed investigation. Detectives re-examined his background, his movements around the time of the shooting, and his known associates. They built a case piece by piece, drawing on witness accounts, digital evidence, and forensic analysis. Eventually, Bonilla was charged with manslaughter, aggravated battery, and firing into a crowd. During the trial, prosecutors painted a picture of a man who acted recklessly and with no regard for human life. They argued that Bonilla brought a firearm to the festival, became involved in an altercation, and fired into the crowd, striking innocent bystanders and killing Expavious Taylor. The defense countered that the evidence was circumstantial and that there was no clear proof Bonilla had been the shooter. They emphasized that no eyewitness had seen him pull the trigger and that the forensic link was based on partial ballistic matches, not direct observation. But the jury disagreed. In 2023, after nearly 8 years of waiting, justice was finally delivered, at least in the eyes of the court. Bonilla was convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison for his role in the Zombicon shooting. For the Taylor family, it was a bittersweet victory. While justice had been served, nothing could bring back Expavious, the young man whose life ended so suddenly that night. His mother spoke outside the courthouse, her voice breaking as she said, "We waited years for this. My son did not deserve to die. He just wanted to have fun. I hope this brings peace, but the pain will never go away." The sentencing brought closure to a community that had carried the weight of fear and uncertainty for nearly a decade. Still, many questions remain unanswered, including why the shooting happened in the first place. To this day, investigators have never determined a clear motive. Bonilla himself has remained largely silent, offering no explanation for his actions or remorse for the life lost. The tragedy forced city officials to confront hard questions about public safety. The organizers of Zombicon faced criticism for what some said was a lack of security and preparation. Others argued that no one could have anticipated such violence in a family-friendly event. Zombicon was never held again. The festival that once brought joy to downtown Fort Myers was permanently canceled after 2015, its name now tied forever to tragedy. Residents still recall the haunting sounds of that night, the echoes of gunfire that replaced the laughter, the images of people dressed as zombies running for their lives, and the devastating realization that one of their own would not make it home. Expavious Taylor's name lives on in memorials, scholarships, and community outreach programs that aim to prevent future violence. Friends say his legacy is one of positivity and strength, not fear. They remember him not for how he died, but for how he lived as a young man full of dreams, compassion, and light. For law enforcement, the Zombicon case stands as a reminder of the persistence required in the pursuit of justice. Even when leads grow cold and time passes, technology, determination, and community support can bring answers to families who deserve them. But for many in Fort Myers, the events of that October night will never fade. The sound of music giving way to gunfire, the flashing lights of police cars cutting through the smoke, and the cries for help in the aftermath, those memories linger as stark reminders of how quickly joy can turn into horror. The Zombicon tragedy will,